whatever.
evangelical penis.
More evangelical or less evangelical than the previous Mike?
Fuck, I don't know. How do you compare crazy with insane?
Where do they get these evangelical mics from? Is there a storage unit? Bring us another mic. The house speaker has fallen.
Mike Penis Johnson.
Mike sucks Jesus' cock Johnson.
Mike Jesus approves genocides Johnson.
Mike, Jesus approves genocides only if it's against Muslims, Johnson. It's the evangelical way, Luigi. It's
Mike, here's 27 billion from Jesus for you to buy missiles with and do a genocide.
Johnson.
I'm sorry. Forgot the most important part.
Yeah. So the face. I was just. How do we start this, Luigi?
Let's do it. Welcome everybody. To another glorious episode of Radio Rocketman. We're gonna be covering what's happening around the world, and it's kind of grim. Joining me is my one and only co-host, George. How are you?
Hello, Luigi. Doing good, but mostly we're gonna be covering the protests in the United States in universities. We gotta make clear.
Yeah, a lot has happened since we last spoke, George, and yeah, at least somebody's saying something against what's happening in Gaza, right?
Yeah, so we're going to the protests here in the United States, which began, we've got the whole timeline. At this point, after about a week and a half of them, see, the situation has really escalated. When you say, Luigi, at least somebody's doing something, 100%. The only ones in the goddamn country doing anything about it. And as expected, the response has been quite brutal against them in every way, shape, or form, up to and including, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but up to and including the Speaker of the House calling them terrorists at this point, because people, they dared to stand up and protest a genocide. That's why. And then we've got...
Not even a genocide. They're protesting a genocide being carried out with their tax dollars.
Basically. It's not even protesting a theoretical genocide. It's protesting a genocide that's being carried out with their fucking dollars. What they're asking for is divestment by those universities.
Yeah.
In anything associated with Israel, basically, which I think is 100% correct.
We should explain that universities in the US basically operate almost like investment funds. So they have a lot of money that they invest in around the world. And that's what the students want to stop, basically, the association between those investment funds and the state of Israel while it's carrying out...
the way they operate,
I'm gonna look, for me, the protesters are actually heroes because you're almost sacrificing, you could be sacrificing your future if you get doxxed, if your identity is out or you get arrested for something like this. And still they're doing it at Ivy League universities as well, right?
All over the place. And I mean, these past 2 days, the thing has escalated even further, Luigi. And we've had counter protesters arriving at the scene. I don't know who these fuckers are, but they're supposedly counter-protesting a genocide, which I guess is...
Explain what that means, please.
I'll tell you what that means, Luigi. This is the face, Luigi,
pro-genocide.
Of genocide. This kid wants more genocide. That's what this kid wants. But I mean...
Make it rain blood.
Fuck me, Luigi, if I know what protesting against this protest means. But whatever it means, they're here as well, and violence has ensued last night, I believe it was, which was Tuesday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we should also mention...
We've got some footage of what was happening.
These protests were peaceful for several days before it became hyper
Of course.
Militarized before heavy numbers of police officers arrive,
Before
basically.
administrations, before the US and the university administrations basically threw their students under the bus and
Mhm.
allowed cops to descend into the campuses.
They
Uh,
invited the cops in.
yeah.
They
They invited,
invited police
they
in
brought
to
them
arrest
in.
their own students.
Yeah. And we'll go through through the whole time. But as you can see here, that's the encampment, the pro-Palestinian encampment, and these are the counter-protesters. I mean, some of them are simply just watching what's happening. Some are counter-protesters that are engaging. They're trying to tear the barricades down, trying to agitate, basically.
Yeah, and my question is, where's all the police, right? Because in different videos you can see like armies of police officers.
Yeah,
Where?
and it depends because we have many universities involved. This is
Absolutely.
UCLA, what is
Yeah.
happening. Right at around the same time, last night, Tuesday night, the police also raided the building in Columbia University, which is in New York, too, because they had taken over a building, the students there. The Hamilton building, and the police raided it with a very funny bridge, with a very
I
funny
saw that.
bridge vehicle.
Yeah.
I will get there, and got the students out and arrested them. At this point, Luigi, I think there's 1,000 students. About 1,000 students have been arrested all over the United States in the
I
land
saw
of
that.
the free,
Yeah,
Luigi,
yeah. The land
arresting
that protects free speech
the
and
land
encourages dissent.
the land, Luigi, where nothing is more sacred than the free speech that
Yeah.
flows freely from the trees and the
Land of
and
the free, home of the brave, George.
from the land of the free. They're arresting students
But we are
for
arresting the
free
brave.
speech.
We are
Yeah.
arresting the brave these
We're
days. We're arresting
arresting the
yeah.
brave and not allowing their speech because fuck that shit. That's
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
the fucking that's just for
And
the fairy tales.
for
Yeah.
comedic irony, it's basically the Republicans that are spearheading this, which
Oh yeah.
are supposed to be the
The
high priests
absolutists.
of the high
Yeah.
priests of
Yeah.
free speech.
The high priests of free speech are spearheading this operation to arrest students for exercising their rights of free speech. Yeah, 100%, Luigi. And I mean, these students, as you said, they're risking their careers, they're risking expulsions, they're
Of
risking
course,
arrests, they're
a lot of
risking
them have
criminal records. They've got the
a lot of them.
speaker of, yeah, sorry, Luigi, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, think about it this way: like you go into a lot of debt to be in that uni,
Oof,
and
their
if you get
investments.
if you get suspended, you basically have no degree and a ton of debt. It's like your life is almost
Their
destroyed, right?
student loans, yeah, and even criminal records. They've got the Speaker of the House calling them terrorists,
Hmm.
the media calling them anti-Semites.
And
Yeah,
billionaires calling for them to be dogs so future employers can never give them a job, which is
they've got
literally destroying your life.
they've got dark money organizations, 100%, and pro-Israel organizations trying to dox the fuck out of them. Yeah, 100%, and that's why many of them are masked. And
Yeah, and that's why I think I consider these people heroes, right? Even though some of them might be kids that don't realize really what they're
they are
risking.
still engaging in a very heroic act, and we,
Exactly.
Luigi, we
We
salute
salute.
them.
Yes, exactly.
We
To those about
salute
to
them.
rock, we salute you.
To those about to rock and to protest against genocide.
Yeah,
This podcast
that's
salutes
the real
you.
song.
We salute you because they are engaging in very heroic acts, of course.
And the counter protesting, I really don't get, right? Because the entire point of the police is to be between protesters and people protesting something different. That's what you see in protests around the world, right? It doesn't make sense for just, a bunch of people to show up and be like, let's beat up those. I mean,
Oh yeah, this is beyond
yeah.
disgusting. There's a shitload of Jewish students,
To the
Jewish
point.
students involved in the fucking Palestinian demonstrations, the campuses, and these fuckers have the nerve. Yeah, what are you protesting for against? What are you counter protesting? Do you want more genocide? Is that what you're counter
Yeah.
protesting for? I mean, what kind of
Yeah.
degenerate
It's
even
exactly what they
attempts
want.
to counter protest this? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And
Yeah.
they've taken, yeah, I mean, in protests of this magnitude, and we're talking about 1,000 people, about 1,000 students have been arrested. The
Yeah.
response, as we said, of university administrations has been absolutely piss poor,
Authoritarian, super
exceptionally weak,
authoritarian.
super authoritarian.
they went heavy-handed, like they threw the
Super
kitchen sink
heavy-handed.
at the
Yeah.
protests immediately, like suspend them, bring the
Not at
police
all
in.
the bastions of free speech and demonstrations and all
Not at
the
all.
rest. They
And
they tell themselves that they
funniest
are.
part is that a lot of faculty, a lot of people
Yes,
working at the universities have
teachers,
also joined the protest.
professors.
Yeah, professors.
Oh yeah, we have quite a few philosophy deans of philosophy professors getting arrested. Respect, true philosophers, carry on. And but yeah,
Jill Stein, which I believe is the candidate for president for the Green Party, got arrested.
100% Luigi, they arrested the leader of the Green Party for
A
fuck's sake.
person
So I
running
mean,
for president, like a 70-year-old woman that
how
can,
can we not like Jill Stein? How can we not like Jill Stein after getting arrested in the protests? But yeah, they have no shame. They treated her as badly as anybody. I think she got charged for assaulting an officer, if you can't believe it.
yeah, and
A
I saw the
70
video.
something year
Yeah,
old woman, for
yeah,
fuck's
with
sake.
back problems, assaulted an officer. And I mean, you can see the video, right? They were trying to shove a bicycle in her face,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
and
yeah.
she
They
was
are.
trying not to fall down. And apparently, her leg like touched the police officers because she didn't have anywhere to go. Something like that, like something really weird.
Yeah, yeah.
But
In the land
but
of
like,
the free, that's how they deal with.
they're going to charge a presidential candidate for assaulting a police officer. And I mean, at the very least, that's going to give her some publicity, right?
Let's hope so. I mean, on the other hand, Luis, if you can remember, one of the two presidential candidates is charged with a boatload of charges.
And I'm getting all the publicity.
And he does get most of the publicity. By the way, on this topic, no comment yet, am I correct? Or very few comments. Nothing that
On,
broke through the zeitgeist.
you mean on the Donald Trump trials?
No, no, no. On the demonstrations by Donald Trump, we haven't had any major comments on
Oh,
what
he
is
basically
happening in
he
universities.
tweeted out, or he
Yes.
truth social
Yeah, yeah.
something like "Stop the protests." All
Because
caps. I mean,
I could,
classic Trump.
yeah, I could imagine he would be very heavy-handed with this.
I mean, this is
Should
the
we go
guy.
through?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the guy who brought over the army in Washington, D.C., wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And there are stories where he was asking his security advisors if they can shoot protesters on the
In the
legs.
legs. In the legs. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
so
kill them. They're just gonna crawl.
yeah.
Should we
My
go?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, I
What
was
was
gonna
I
say
gonna say,
my
Luigi?
real concern is like in a country that is filled with guns, when people protest and there's counter protests, I mean things can get bad quickly, right? And that's my concern, that the violence so far it was sticks or something,
Yeah.
throwing chairs at each other. I really hope it doesn't devolve into some anything worse.
Should we? I
Yeah,
mean,
let's continue. I mean, I
I've
did
got,
not
I've
cover the
got,
subject.
I've
Mhm.
got the whole. We should go
Oh,
through a
okay,
little bit
okay,
of the timeline
sure.
of what has happened. So I mean, I was at the start in the University of Texas, Luigi. I mean, in the South they do things differently. It was pure fucking. I mean, the cops instantly descended on the
Yeah.
fucking protesters. They just
Greg Abbott,
arrested.
the
Yeah,
governor, the governor sent them. Yeah,
rubber bulleted them, fucking tear gas canistered them. They just
yeah.
completely, I mean, no
In
regard.
Texas, we don't fuck around, George.
Yeah, so bless them in the southern universities. But I mean, moving through, we had protests. At least 40 pro-Palestine protest camps are arisen across US campuses following Columbia's university's example earlier this month. We had the US faculty, as you said, speaking up.
A lot of them as well, in every
Many, many,
university,
many,
I
many
believe,
in every university standing up with the students.
and trying to protect the students even at some points from counter protesters, as
Oh
I
yeah,
said.
it's not the faculty that let down the students. It's the administrations. It's the
Yeah,
administrations.
it's the people
Uh,
handling the money, basically.
yeah, the managerial classes.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Echoes of Vietnam era. I believe these are the biggest since
Yeah,
Vietnam. The most
probably in
significant
universities at least. Yeah,
student movements is the anti-Vietnam campus protests of the late 1960s, which is Good to see. Good to
Yeah,
see.
good to see finally.
After all this, after I don't know, 35,000 dead in Gaza with the United States, I'm sorry to say, clearly having a hand in this and being, I mean,
Of course.
aiding and
Of course.
abetting the whole fucking genocide has to
And
be
enabling, I mean,
enabling
with
it.
US weapons. I mean,
And not just US weapons, with 2 decades of mollycoddling Israel and allowing it to get
of
away with
course.
everything to the point where Israel believes it can get away with everything.
And it has. And it has.
And
And no, I was going to say,
understandably, at this point,
of
Israel
course.
believes it can get away with everything, and that's the US's fault. So,
Have you
I
seen the
mean, we
have you
need the
seen
students. Yeah, sorry, Luigi, go on.
have you seen the news that there are rumors that the International Criminal Court might
Yes,
charge
I've got it,
Israeli
Luigi.
officials? You've
I've
got
got
it?
it.
Okay, we're not going
Yeah,
to talk
of
about it.
course. But still, nothing happened as of yet. We'll get to it. So
Okay.
we have that. Colombia, as you said, the heavy-handed response by universities, and we had demonstrations all over. As we said, 40. We had UCLA in California,
Yeah.
Columbia, NYU in New York. We had Yale, Harvard, the Ivy League universities.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
been
yeah.
protests everywhere. And Colombia, as you said, heavy-handedly began suspending pro-Palestine protesters after they ignored an ultimatum to move out, basically, to
No,
abandon their campment or risk
I think
suspension. Yeah.
I think the Speaker of the House basically also suggested, so Mike Penis Johnson, I think it was him that suggested that foreign students here on
Yes.
student visas should have their visas revoked,
If
basically,
they engage in terrorist acts of,
which he clearly considers this to be, right?
yeah,
Protesting on university.
I mean, how protesting against killing innocent Palestinian civilians, terrorist, my dude, terrorist. So I
Yeah,
mean, for Mike,
Mike Johnson has visions from Jesus, and then that's how he gets his guiding light for the audience as well. Clearly, like Mike Johnson is a hyper evangelical,
a hyper evangelical douchebag. So I
yeah,
mean, what do you expect, people? But I mean, considering it's
he's on
part
the
of. I mean, what the
he's on
students have to reckon with. It includes the Speaker of the House, yeah, going
yeah. The
ballistic
speaker of
against them.
yeah, ballistic, calling them terrorists, and like
Ballistic.
the guy is like I don't know the man. It's so
Surreal.
bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bizarre.
surreal. See,
Very
I mean,
bizarre, bizarre. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's so weird to see this situation
Everything is turned upside down. Yeah.
where the person that is approving billions for weapons to enable a genocide is calling people that are protesting that terrorists. And that guy is the third most powerful politician in the country, arguably the second one in terms of
And I mean, the
prestige.
most powerful one, Biden, is calling them anti-Semites, a level below, a level below. It's like, there's a lot of anti-Semitic content in those demonstrations. Go
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
Jack. Stop the genocide. Stop the
And
fucking
by the way,
genocide.
from the
Get
few
busy. Get busy, Jack, and stop fucking commenting about what much braver people than you are doing.
there have been a lot of videos during these protests where there's like counter protesters starting to actually shout anti-Semitic shit and
Yeah, I know.
they get booed by the actual protesters, right?
Because
So
they know they're not stupid. They're
of
not
course
fucking stupid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and how disgusting is this? Fucking agent provocateurs. Go fuck yourselves, dipshits. They're trying to stop a genocide, fucking degenerate scam, trying to provoke and agitate. Because they know these
Woozan,
are fucking deep.
relax
Sorry.
yourself, man.
Sorry, Louis. These are fucking dipshits, Luigi. And they know, I mean, they know the law is on their side, give or take, because the law is never on the side of the oppressed.
Of
Sorry,
course.
the police. I'm talking about the police. So they're
Oh,
trying to agitate and and this has worked, I think, what you mentioned. In one them, they actually got the police involved
yeah.
after shouting anti-Semitic slogans.
Exactly.
An
And the
agent
university,
provocateur.
an agent provocateur was booed down by the crowd, and still like that, the university used that as an excuse to bring
Yeah.
the police in. And the argument was like when they were asked, when they pointed out the fact that it was shouted by one person who wasn't part of the protests,
They said
they
it was a
basically said,
fact that it was shouted.
yeah, it was shouted like the words
Wow.
were
Yeah.
uttered on our campus,
And
and
it
we
was
can't have that.
reported by that guy. So, and I'm like, fuck
It's
you.
so
And I mean,
so
by the
crazy.
way, And I think what that agent provocateur said was kill the specific ethnic group that's in Israel, and which
Yeah.
Luigi is completely fucking disgusting to say, but in the United States is legal. And even that chanting shouldn't have prompted a police response because they have no hate speech laws in the United States, contrary to Europe. In Europe, it would have been illegal. But in the United States, you can say that unless there is direct incitement
Meant to violence. Yeah.
of violence to a specific individual, not a group.
Hmm. And we should mention it's the Supreme Court that has repeatedly rejected to prohibit or to
So
punish
yeah,
hate speech.
So I mean, even that response was simply flimsy by the Columbia whatever administration, which prompted the police to escalate because they should have just let it go. By the way, he only shouted
Mhm.
it once, I think, as far as I saw the clip.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
it
the
was, they were
crowd
basically,
immediately reacted against him.
oh yeah, the crowd reacted
The
against him,
crowd would not tolerate it.
and
Hmm.
the police fucking marched in. So I mean, it was the flimsiest of
Yeah.
excuses, is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
For that. And then we had what else have we got? California University, the Polytechnic University, Heroes. I mean, we had the major escalations at this point. Are in Columbia University and UCLA in California. So
Yeah.
New York and California. And they
The two
moved
that
in.
went the hardest against the
Yeah.
protesters immediately called police, I think, on both occasions.
Columbia was piss poor, yeah, I remember. And Tuesday evening, the Hamilton Hall building, which had been taken over by the protesters, the NYPD officers moved in and they used a very funny fucking
Yeah, there it is.
vehicle, bridge, ladder, whatever. They look like fucking lemmings, dude.
Yeah. So
Obviously, with the university's blessing.
obviously, there's nothing
And
like arresting your own
arrested,
students.
nothing like arresting hundreds of your own students.
Hmm. It's a
Uh,
great business model.
Great business. Well, first you take their money and then you arrest them, right?
Yeah. And then you're left with the money without actually having given them an education. Win-win.
Win-win. And then we will explain why they're wearing masks. I've got some pictures as well.
Hmm. Yeah, there's some pretty powerful pictures that have been taken over the last month. Wow. That was... Hmm.
Ah,
There
that's
it is.
the big
Great ladder.
culprit, the great ladder
The
of
ladder to heaven.
the ladder to genocide, Luigi. This is the ladder to genocide,
Uh,
amigos. Don't get on that ladder.
talk about the police being militarized.
Oh yeah, by the way, yeah. I mean, that's quite a picture, yeah. So, the students are seem to be picking up the slack, right? Or being
Finally, finally. The only ones.
the
The moral.
only
Mhm.
the moral backbone of this of Western civilization.
Thank God, man. I mean, somebody had to do something. I can't imagine a universe where wider protests would happen in the streets, like the Black Lives Matter movement, for
Yes, that
example.
was the
But
last time we had a major one. And I mean, what was the spark of that? Completely horrific. It was basically
yeah,
the cold-blooded killing of a person, of a black person in the middle of the street, in the middle of the day as well, while pedestrians pleaded for his life. So, I
yeah.
mean, that's what it took last time.
And those were, those protests were violent from the
And
beginning, right?
huge, and
And
huge,
huge, yeah. And I mean,
huge.
looting. So
Look
this
back.
is nothing like that. This is like we have to stress
Oh,
on university campuses, pretty contained. It's basically college kids, like
and completely peaceful, up to the point where the police got involved and started manhandling people. And then at this point,
citizens.
with the counter protesters, obviously it's gotten violent, and somebody should intervene. Obviously, there shouldn't be violence between counter protesters and protesters.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Separate
want to
them.
protest for genocide, just do it on the opposite street or something. You don't have to go where those people are. You
Yeah,
can do
yeah,
it
yeah.
somewhere else.
So at this point, you need some form of security police presence simply to separate the two sides. So you fucked up completely.
Which
Yeah.
it's there. I mean, at
Oh
this
yeah,
point, I think,
it's there, but it's not being. I mean, we've talked about this. All the university administrations have been extremely heavy-handed against their students. All but one of them. I think there was a university in Oregon that agreed to divest some things. But I mean, all of them have been completely clear-cut that we're not gonna divest.
yeah,
Fuck all.
they're
Go
never gonna
fuck
divest.
yourselves, and
They're
you're not gonna
never
get a
gonna divest.
degree anyway.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean
man.
that has been the response. And you
They're
remember
yeah.
when they brought them to the hearings a few months ago, one of them, the Columbia chancellor, I remember her. And her
Yeah.
response was pathetic. Yeah. I remember back then. She was like, we will not tolerate anti-Semitism. And there was nothing about protecting her students and their free speech rights.
Yeah, fuck your
And
students.
yeah, and vouching for them that they're not fucking anti-Semites, first of all. For God's sake. As I said, there's a lot of Jewish students in these demonstrations, for God's sake.
I'm sure some of them might have gotten arrested as well,
Oh, 100%.
which
University's
is,
president, that's Minu Shafiq. That's the one I was talking about. She's the Columbia University president.
yeah.
But
All right. What else do we have?
what else do we have? Should we go quickly for the rest? We have Luigi. Just that Biden has signed the foreign aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and
Mhm.
Taiwan, because we mentioned, of course, he was going to sign it, but
Well,
just to clarify that
it's
it's been passed.
ceremonial. I mean, yeah, it's been passed. About a third of that is going to go to Israel for no apparent reason other
Oh
than to
yeah,
continue the genocide. That's what we are protesting. Part of that, at
I love
least.
how you tied back. Yeah,
Yeah.
with a nice bow. So let's
Yeah.
move
So
on
it's
then.
signed. And now
Signed. And now we've got Court Watch again, and we're not doing the one with Stormy Daniels. We did it last time. That's enough for now.
Donny against the law.
Now we've been waiting for this one for a while now. It's the one up with Jack Smith, the federal case against insurrection, and the Supreme Court is returning Trump immunity claim to lower court after arguments. Look, folks, it's not looking good. It's getting complicated. The conservative justices and the chief justice have suggested that president should have some level of immunity and would favor the presiding trial judge in the case, deciding whether any acts in the indictment were official and should be expunged. So they want him to go through the whole fucking thing and get rid of anything that they consider to have been Trump acting in his official capacity. It's going to get very complicated.
Yeah. So how
The
do you distinguish
liberal,
how do you
yes.
distinguish if the president was acting as the president or as Donald Trump?
Exactly. There was even a question by one of the liberal justices to Trump's team lawyers, and she was like, "What if he tried to do a coup?" And the prosecutor was like, "Depends on the context." And she was like, "That doesn't sound very good, does
That
it?"
doesn't sound very good. That
So, I
sounds
mean, Alito suggested that not granting presidents some level of immunity might even prevent a risk to a stable democracy. And that suggestion was particularly startling and underscored Alito's deference to Trump's argument, as it was the direct opposite situation of the Trump indictment, in which Trump is accused of endangering democracy. The liberal justices were scathing. I really like Ketanji. She said that I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is of turning the Oval Office into the seat of criminality. Once we say no criminal liability, Mr. President, you can do whatever you want. I'm worried we would have a worse problem than the problem of the president feeling constrained to follow the law while he's in office. And I'm
wow.
100%
A
with you.
revelation, obviously.
A revelation, Luigi, there's a possibility they're going to make it worse than it was with Nixon. There's a possibility.
You can do whatever you want, Mr. President.
I'm
Just
sure
go.
I'm sure they would argue that what he did with Watergate, I'm sure they would argue it was not in his official capacity, but it's getting too muddy. It's getting too muddy. But what we should gather from this, most importantly of all, apart from what they're gonna rule, is that the case is gonna be delayed 100%, Luigi.
Yeah, for after the
Uh,
election, most likely.
for after the election, most likely, because they have to go through the whole thing again and tighten up the case to only present the parts that they believe were done in his personal capacity.
Yeah, we're just gonna take a long time, and basically, this is not gonna really be influential for the election itself.
Yeah, if it remands the matter back to the presiding U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan, it would almost certainly inject new delay and could preclude it from going to trial before the November election.
Such
And
an
then,
outcome
as we
would be a
said,
win for Trump.
an absolute win for Trump because this is a federal case and he can just appoint an attorney general who will drop charges against him, which makes a
Precisely.
mockery of the whole
Out of the
thing.
legal system.
Yeah. So that's the main takeaway.
I
Let's
mean,
move
Tony
on.
has had a
Yeah.
lot of victories against the law lately, but yeah, let's keep going.
Let's keep going. That's what you mentioned some time ago in the
Yeah.
podcast, Luigi. We've had
I
these
mentioned-
rumors started by Bibi. Started by Bibi himself, these rumors, weren't they? He's the one
Somebody
who
must
started talking about it.
Somebody must have given him a heads up that the International Criminal Court is looking into him, basically, and might come down with charges, which, I mean, it's been a while, but
It's
better
been
late than
about
never.
it's been about 3 years since the investigation in the International Criminal Court, not the International Court of Justice, was launched in 2021 and covers events starting in 2014. The inquiry has also been looking at Israel's constructions of settlements in occupied territory. They're land grabbing attempts, people. Yes.
Which have repeatedly been condemned by the United Nations and everybody else, even the
By
US.
everybody sane and just, yeah. And
Even
because
the US will have to add that.
even the insane. But the rumors were, Luigi, that the G7 diplomats are basically threatening the ICC to delay the possible war crimes charges against Israel and Hamas, both of them. So nobody can fucking
you should.
complain. Yeah.
Exactly.
But they will complain, of course.
Yeah. So
But I mean, what the reporting is that the G7 are basically threatening the ICC that if they come out with those charges, there's not going to be a ceasefire. The talks are going to break down, and more Palestinians will be killed. That's what they're threatening them with. The International Criminal Court should not fucking capitulate to demands of certain nations.
at the end of the day, there's no enforcement mechanism. Right.
None.
So even if they can rule whatever they want, but the
Still,
fact
though,
that nothing's
Luigi,
gonna change. Yeah,
you have to admit, not just the optics.
The
There's
optics
about
is just
how
the
many?
optics.
No. There's about hundreds of countries are signatories. You remember Putin couldn't go to South Africa when they had the BRICS meeting because there's an ICC warrant against him there. It does complicate things, as you said.
But not a game changer.
Bibi's not gonna end up in The Hague. Yeah,
No,
very, very, very unlikely.
No, that's not
Almost
happening.
impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah. But it's gonna complicate things a lot. I would be 100% for it if the ICC came with those charges, but the ICC seems more politically influenced than the ICJ. But I mean, we'll see. The ICC has not commented officially and has actually played completely mum about this.
Yeah.
They're actually denying the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, they're not saying we're not going to do it. They're saying we don't have, we're not saying anything about the subject.
We're
right
not saying
now.
anything. We're not expecting anything dramatic at the moment. Still, there's a possibility of it happening. The Israelis seem convinced it's going to happen. The degree that the foreign minister, to the degree that the foreign minister is sending messages to Israel's embassies, advising them to prepare for a severe anti-Semitic backlash to the court. This is fucking bullshit again. These people play the anti-Semitic card so fucking hard,
every step of the
Luigi.
way. At every step of the way.
Man, I mean, they played so hard that it's meaningless at this point.
Is there anti-Semitism
Of
in the world?
course
Of
there
course.
is.
But playing the anti-Semitism card every time the state of Israel is accused of something is a little bit disingenuous.
A little bit. Just a
And
little
when
bit.
I say a little bit, I mean, you can read between the lines.
We hope. So, we're going to say, that's the news on this, Luigi. Do we have any? I mean, we have some responses, sorry. Obviously, Mike Evangelical Johnson. Mike, what did I say last time? Mike, I give blowjobs to Jesus Johnson. Said that such a lawless action.
Mike, I sent weapons to foreign nations to commit genocide in the name of Jesus Johnson.
Lovely. Mike, I don't even remember my last name. I'm so committed to Jesus Johnson. just said such a lot. Mike, I'm so committed to Jesus. I give so much money for genocides. Johnson just said that such a lawless action by the ICC would directly undermine US national security interests. Whatever. I'm not even willing to give him
How is
this.
that? How is that
It,
gonna undermine U.S. security interests?
it won't allow us to do as many lawless actions as before, Luigi, because the
Yeah, so
ICC, the ICC
that's a
might say
limitation,
that's a
but that is a
limitation.
limitation. It's supposed to be a limitation.
Yes, but beasts don't understand that angle, Luigi. You want challenge the Biden administration? Yes,
Jesus was the original supporter of genocides.
well known. He did not say turn the other cheek. He said waste that motherfucker.
Yeah, he said bomb the fuck out of them.
Fuck the poor. I wanna be rich, bitch. You want?
You
You
want
want?
water? I'm not even giving you wine.
So, I mean, the political leaders have been fucking disgusting. No, I'm not covering this degenerate.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Let's get going. Oh, now this is funny. We can call it our funny news for the week.
Yeah.
They've started building the shitty pier, Luigi.
The impromptu pier that will deliver aid because we won't open the actual land borders to send the aid in.
It's insane. And by the
Let's
way,
build stuff in the ocean.
we're very late on schedule. This was supposed to be middle of April, if I remember. They fucked up. They fucked up. It's May.
I mean, it's there's an ongoing famine at this point, and
Oh
we are
yeah.
discussing how we are going to build the pier.
Then for fuck's sake, right? And the cherry on top, Luigi, which is gonna fucking blow your mind, is I think Bibi came out and was like, we're gonna use the pier to voluntarily migrate the Palestinians out of fucking Gaza.
Oh yeah, voluntary, completely voluntary.
My God, man.
Like
He's pissing in our faces,
I can
people.
think of the advertisement right now. Has your house been destroyed? You can always relocate somewhere else. Fuck off.
Just get your bags, go there, and we're gonna ship you out, baby.
This is so
That's
fucking
BB's plan.
insane. This is so
Yeah,
insane, seriously, and so sickening. Yeah.
sickening. Yeah.
Anyway,
Was exploring routes. I think the WCK has resumed operations. That's the one whose people got bombed a month
yeah,
ago.
the world kitchen. Yeah.
The World Kitchen.
Yeah.
Some aid has gotten through in bigger quantities the last few days. Is it enough? Fuck no. So situation continues badly.
Yeah. What else?
Oh, and just to finish up on this, he has vowed to raid Rafah with or without the hostage deal.
Yeah, he's been saying that for some
Yes,
time.
yes.
Let's
We'll
hope.
have,
Let's
yeah.
hope that they're gonna figure something out in terms of negotiations.
They're negotiating every day almost with no results yet. I think the sticking point, Luigi, I'm not saying. I think the sticking point is that basically Hamas wants the troops, the Israeli troops, permanently out of of Gaza, and Israel won't agree to that. I think they figured it out in terms of hostage exchange and prisoner exchange.
Yeah,
But
but
it's the other points that are being
you're basically agreeing to an ongoing occupation. And I mean, let's
yeah.
face it, they don't really have much of a choice, so they should better take the deal.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, their side, their only angle is world opinion, basically, and allowing Israel to
yeah.
further degrade its image. But
As
at
I
the
said,
same time,
they don't have any real leverage, so that's when you take a deal that you
uh,
don't like.
and I
Yeah,
mean, on the other hand, Luigi, you've got Israel that basically considers the other side of the negotiating party as an entity they want to destroy. So I guess that complicates negotiations, right? Because then negotiating with Hamas while simultaneously being like, we have to eliminate every
yeah,
last
everyone.
vestige
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Hamas. So I mean, how the fuck can you even negotiate at this point?
You're going to give them a lopsided deal. They won't like it, but they ultimately, what can they do? It's that situation.
We'll have to see. Move on.
Yeah. let's do some funnier
some
news.
other
Some
news.
corporate news.
Corporate news, people. The best news. Corporations gonna corporate.
Where my profit? Where my
Money,
profit
money, money,
at?
money, money. Quarterly returns. But I
Tax
mean,
cuts.
for the rich.
All right, so the Chinese are saying they would rather shut down TikTok in the
Yeah.
US rather than sell it.
That's it. And it's just, sources say. So, I mean, don't take it as the gospel.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and it's what
usually,
I said, Luis. It's the secret sauce algorithm. They don't want to give it to Americans, basically.
Mhm.
Because they're claiming that it's impossible to separate it, to separate the two and sell the American part of the operations without the algorithm or whatever.
Yeah, they've got a problem then. If
Yeah.
that's the case, I mean, the Americans are gonna ban this at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
no,
do you
that's what
say, Luigi, to the, I don't know, 100 million Zoomers in the United States that are going to be left without their favorite app?
Oh, I'm
Go
so sad for
demonstrate,
you.
backers. Go stop the genocide. It's wrong, though. We have to be honest. It's wrong. It's not free speech. And
Look,
it's not.
it's
And
no,
another thing it is not, Luigi, it's not the free market.
it's not a free market, but I mean, you have to look at this through the lens of this is really a new Cold War. It's going in
Yeah,
that direction
100%.
steadily
100%.
and surely. So yeah, I think that the Americans are not afraid to sort of draw first blood. Let's say they already have, in a sense. And if there's one thing that unites both parties, it's hatred of China or antagonizing China.
Yeah. And you think retaliations wise, you think it's coming, the hammer is coming on Apple?
I don't know, man. I mean, putting the hammer on Apple brings another counter retaliation by the US.
Of course.
Banning Apple is going nuclear. I don't know. Let's hope they ban Elon or something.
By the way, Elon just visited. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
hope, but Elon just visited China and then he got a deal, some kind of deal,
Got a deal.
GPS services, some kind of GPS
He went.
services on his cars, isn't
Okay,
it?
so Elon's trying to roll out the full self-driving, the robot taxis that
It's
that
not, by the
has that.
way, none of them are fully self-driving. Then he calls
Not
them
yet, at
that.
least.
He
He's
calls
gonna,
them that, Luigi, but actually you gotta keep your hands on the steering wheel
of
at
course,
all
of course.
times.
Look,
I mean,
he's planning to release that software to the greater public, and he has penciled in this summer for doing that. And what he basically did is he went to the Chinese and he begged them to allow him to export data from those cars back to the US, basically. So you can see, we've had the trade war with the basic tariffs, then it went to chips and semiconductors, and now it's we're doing the sort of data war. I'm gonna restrict your access to my data.
yeah,
So
and it's
yeah,
mainly between Chinese and the Americans because let's be honest, they're the only ones who have any stake in the tech industry.
yeah,
They're the only
for
ones.
sure.
It's the Chinese and the Europeans have had their fucking cake
Zero.
eaten a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Mhm.
So it's just the
And
Americans and the Chinese.
speaking of the Europeans eating the lunch, or rather the Chinese and the Americans eating European lunch.
Oh,
Oh, that was a pretty good segue. So,
vive la France!
France begins a crusade against shrinkflation.
I love that. And by the way, Biden spoke about this in his State of the Union. France has already acted, people.
Yeah, so shrinkflation for the uninitiated is the practice by businesses to keep the price unchanged, but to give you less product, basically.
Come on, people, unless you're 12 years old, you have noticed this. You have noticed this. You buy crisps, they have less shit in them. You buy chocolate bars, they have less
fewer chocolate, same
in
price.
Yeah.
It's not inflation, it's shrinkflation.
They figured out a new way to scam you, people.
I mean, the businesses think they're so smart. It's like
Bikers.
whoever came up with this is like, and no one is gonna notice. We're just gonna give them a little bit less.
By the way, to this day, Luigi, it amazes me that we are so stupid as a species that to this day, most supermarkets go with the classic 99 shit instead of just rounding up because that's the way our brains work.
Shit,
It's so fucking weird, right? But this is another way they figure out to scam us.
So the news is that from July, French retailers, French shops will have to display for 2 months when food and other common consumer products like detergent have been downsized in a way that causes the unit price to go up.
Excellent, an excellent idea. They will have to display for 2 months whenever they downsize in that way.
When you have double-digit inflation in food, I mean, okay, I understand the natural response from the business is say, I can't put the price up that much. I'm going to lose some demand. Let's try to fuck with them. But yeah, that's as we've said countless times, market failures exist. This is one of them. And it's exactly what the government should be doing.
The
And
glorious French coming to the rescue. What
the
else have we
famous
got?
French regulation. But yeah, speaking of French regulation, the president of France made a really weird speech recently, and he basically argued that the Europe has to get its act straight in terms of trade because the US and China are fucking us in a sense. And this is weird. Weird comments from Macron.
He does
Because
the
he's
weird. He does the weird shit sometimes. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's protectionism, advocating for protectionism. It's not really what Goldman Sachs alumni do. And
No.
secondarily, Europe already has a very tight trade policy, right? We have really high tariffs for anything coming into the EU. And I think Macron was arguing that we should go beyond tariffs. We should start thinking in the dimensions that the Americans and the Chinese are thinking with data,
I
semiconductors.
mean, I agree with this. It underinvests in innovation, fails to protect its industries, and obviously defense says that's a European thing that should be taken into account 100%.
For sure.
There's a lot of wars happening around us.
Yeah, and I mean, we outsourced our security to the Americans about 70 years ago. It's time
Yeah,
we took it back. I mean,
yeah.
okay, are we going to spend a little bit more of the budget
Has to be
on
done.
defense?
Has
It
to be
has to be
done.
done.
Because otherwise, you're dragged into every military conflict that the United States considers
Bingo.
advantageous to itself. And I mean,
Otherwise, you are not a superpower in yourself, right? You can't just be an economic power. The war with Ukraine showed the limitations of sanctions. Like you can sanction the fuck out of the
yeah,
Russians, you can sanction the fuck out of the Iranians. Ultimately, those economies are going to learn to live with sanctions. Are the
yeah.
people going to be poorer? Sure, but not enough to change decision making on the top levels of those governments.
Yeah, and I think what this comes down to, the underinvestment in innovation, is the lack of a common fiscal union,
Hmm.
basically. Because the EU, it's going to be difficult to invest on a European wide level because the EU doesn't even have the budget to do this
Yeah.
in a certain sense.
So
Because
for the
at this,
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, an economy, a fiscal union means, you can issue bonds collectively. You can issue debt collectively. And then you can
You
redirect
act.
the money that you've received from that debt that you issued collectively towards things like investing Europe-wide.
Precisely. Think of what the US federal government does. It spends a lot of money on the federal government level. We don't really have that in the European Union.
Yes.
So that's something that has to change over time. All of the bureaucrats want to change it, but there's a lot of inertia on the national level, and a lot of countries. I mean, looking at you,
The-
Germany, that
yeah.
don't really want to do that.
Because they want their cake and they want to eat it too. And we have to be honest about it at this point. They benefit enormously by a lower currency, by the euro, because it contains a lot of countries that are not as, let's say, economically prudent as Germany. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
And
this
we should
allows the
also
currency to fall down in value, which allows Germany, which was up to 2 minutes ago an export-oriented
Mhm. To
nation,
sell more
to sell
cars.
boatloads more cars. That would have been 100 times more expensive on the Deutschmark.
Yeah, and like we should mention that the German economy hasn't been doing that well lately because
It was the
Ukraine,
Russian invasion
yeah, the Russian
that
invasion
shell shocked the
coupled
German.
coupled with the broader slowdown in
Yeah,
China that we've seen.
yes, yes.
Germany and China have really close trade links. Actually, China is a very big market for German exports. So it was sort of a double whammy, and
Yeah,
the fact that their constitution forces them to stick to a balanced budget, basically do austerity by force.
yeah, which
That
worked when they had a shitload of exports. But,
yeah,
when times get crunchy, yeah.
the austerity doesn't work. Austerity works only in the best of times,
Yes,
and
yes.
this is not. These are not
This
the
is
best of
not,
times.
yeah, 100%.
But
Should we
speaking of
finish up,
austerity,
Luigi?
yeah,
Should we
yeah. Speaking of
finish up with,
austerity, oh,
let's finish up with Pedro, my favorite Sanchez. will continue as Spain's prime minister. You know, they've been throwing a lot of mud at Pedro's wife, but he's decided to stay on. I don't want to get through. I've read through the whole thing.
I just
It's very loose allegations. I'm not gonna delve more into it, but it's far right media going insane. And
good for him that he's staying. I just want to
yeah.
mention that Spain is actually doing the best out of any European country over the last couple of years. Right? If Spain wasn't growing that much, Europe would be in a recession, overall speaking.
That sounds
Pedro,
great. That looks great for Pedro. And I'm gonna
exactly.
add to what Luigi has been saying. For any Spanish people who are like Pedro is not that good enough. Man, Pedro had one of the lowest inflations during the pandemic because he capped fucking energy prices. I remember that. They had one of the best results in Spain, contrary to a lot of other places in Europe. Sanchez is also one of the staunchest defenders of Palestine and the rights of Palestinians. So I mean, I think he's good enough. I'm glad that he's staying.
A great example of a left-wing politician that is actually presiding over a country that is booming right now.
Viva la Pedro. Let's finish up on this good news, Luigi. Yeah. So, should we?
A wonderful week. I mean, not really wonderful in terms of news, but I really enjoyed our chat. Thank you to the audience for making it until the end. See you next week.
See you guys. Bye bye.